Hey everyone, it's Kelly. Thanks for joining me. I am back with a new process video for the Cut Shop, and for today's layout I'm going to be using the haunted house cut file. And I've mentioned this on a couple of my past videos, and I'm starting to feel like a little bit of a broken record, but I am playing catch up with my process videos, getting voiceovers recorded. So if you follow me on Instagram or you follow the Cut Shop on Instagram, this is a layout that I created, I think, back in October. So it is not necessarily a new layout, but I am just now finding time to get the voiceover recorded. So I'm starting this layout with a little bit of mixed media, and I wanted to add some orange paint to my background. And as I was going through my paint stash, I realized that I didn't have any orange paint. So that's fairly easy to make just by mixing the red and the yellow. So that is what I'm doing on a piece of packaging. My thought for this layout was that I was going to use this text print background, and it is an older paper from my Halloween stash. I'm not even sure who the manufacturer is, but it has this tiny text on it with Halloween words, and I thought that I would cover the background with some orange paint and place the cut file on top of that background. But as I was adding the paint, I really wasn't liking how it was looking. So then I think that I'll come in with some white gesso and try to blend out a little bit of that orange, but the gesso was covering up too much. So as I'm adding this, I'm really not liking it, and I decide to go ahead and add some more orange paint. So I just keep adding layers and layers and layers, and I'm just not happy with how it's looking at all. So I decide to toss this idea and go with something a little bit different. Now I do save that painted background, and I end up using it on a different layout a little later on, which I do have a process video recorded for that also. So hopefully I will get to that video soon and get that published so you can see how I salvaged that background. After digging through my Halloween stash, I found this pattern paper that I'm going to use for the background, and it's really pretty. It has a distressed look to it, but it also has a little bit of a swirl pattern on the background, and I really like how this looks with the cut file placed on top. So now I'm just using some liquid adhesive and adhering that spider web to the background. And I didn't want to use the words haunted house for my title. So once I get that adhered down along the outside edges, I'm going to come in with a pair of fine tipped scissors, and I'm going to cut out the words haunted house. And I don't know how well you can see it on the video, but that haunted house cut file is cut on another pattern paper. I think this is an older Teresa Collins pattern paper, but don't quote me on that. It was a Halloween paper also. And it has almost a houndstooth pattern to it. And I liked how that looked. I felt like it gave the cut file a little bit of texture with having that pattern. So here you can see that I am cutting out the words haunted house, and I like how the spider web is separated and there's that break in between. I thought it was going to be the perfect place to put my title, but we're not really a haunted house type family, especially with having Aiden. He's not much of a thrill seeker, so I knew that I wanted to use the cut file, but I didn't want to use that title. So I thought originally that I was going to just use some thickers to spell out a title in that area, but I found that die cut in my stash and it fit perfectly in between the cut file, so I decided that I'm going to use that. Here you can see that I went and did some hand stitching along the spider web, and I really like how that turned out. You can still see the pattern from the pattern paper peeking out from behind the hand stitching, but it just added so much depth and dimension to the layout that I am so glad that I took the time to do it. So just a moment ago, I showed you the photos that I'm going to be using for the layout, and I have these stacks of photos. I think I have 3 or 4 photo boxes full of pictures that I had printed before I started printing at home. I used to just order my photos through Snapfish and just have them mailed to me. And they're all 4x6s. They're not a size that I love to use. So I was going through the photo boxes, trying to find photos that I wanted to scrapbook, that I knew that I could trim down and not have to reprint, because I just am not inspired by that size of photo any longer. So I came across these 2 photos of Aiden, and I literally laughed out loud when I saw them. I can remember this day so vividly in my mind. And I just wanted this kid to smile at the camera. I wanted to get that quote unquote perfect photo of him smiling and of us having a good time at the pumpkin patch. And the wind was blowing in his face, and then when the wind would stop blowing, the clouds would move and he'd have the sun in his face, and he kept making all of these hilarious faces, which at the time I just wanted him to smile. But going back through these photos and seeing them now, I just have such a different feel for these photos, because what felt like it was a continual thing where me just wanting him to smile and just look at the camera and smile, I just have such a different retrospect, I guess you could say, looking back at these photos, because I love these photos more than I do those perfect shots that I have of him smiling at the camera, because these photos capture his personality and they just remind me of that time. I think that sometimes as parents, when they're going through an age or going through a stage, it feels like it's maybe never going to change or it's never going to end, and then you get past that and you almost don't realize that you get past it. And when you go back through pictures or you remember certain things, you get all the feels when you see these type of things. At least for me, that's how it is. He is almost 11 now, and I think he was 3 or 4 in these pictures, and I miss this. I miss the funny, quirky faces that he would make at the camera, and at the time, it didn't seem overly funny because I just wanted to get that quote unquote perfect photo. But I am so glad that I kept these outtakes, because they mean more to me now than those perfect photos do, because I can really remember certain things about his personality and about who he was and the funny things that he did at this age. And hopefully I'm not the only mom who feels that way when they look at older pictures of their kids. So hopefully everything that I just said made sense. But let's get back to the layout. I added some tissue paper behind the photos just to give a little bit of separation from the background. And now I'm just coming in with lots of different Halloween themed embellishments. A lot of these are older product from my stash. I think those bats, may be from K & Company that I bought at Michael's years and years and years ago. And then the pumpkins and the tag and the spiders, those are from a Bella Boulevard collection. And then the tombstones, I believe, are from the Simple Stories Frankie and Friends collection. But again, I keep all my Halloween stash in iris containers, and I just throw it in there as I collect it and pull it out and use it, because I feel like Halloween is one of those holidays and one of those themes that all the products tend to blend together very, very well. So I'm not 100% certain on the manufacturers or the time that I purchased these items. I did also add the year that the photos were taken on either side of that Halloween die cut that I'm using as my title. So I put the 20 on the left side and the 12 on the right side, and those are just some glittery foam thickers. Now I'm trying to decide where I want to put my journaling, because I do want to talk about what I mentioned earlier in the video. And at first I thought I would just add the journaling under the photo on the right hand side of the layout, but I thought it might be kind of fun to add the journaling around the outside edge of the spider web. So I just used a pencil to start the journaling to see how I would like it, and I liked how it looked. So then I just grabbed a pen from my stash, and I believe this is an American Crafts pen, and I'm just going around the outside of the web on the top and bottom portion of the web and just adding my thoughts and feelings about these photos. And one thing about adding my journaling this way, because I didn't write it out with a pencil all the way around the web, I ended up having a little bit more to say than what I was planning on. I was hoping that it would all just fit around the web, but I did have to add a little bit under the photo. And I think it looks fine, but I wanted to maybe make it a little bit more cohesive. So I grabbed a stamp from my stash, which I will add it here in just a moment, and I stamp underneath the journaling just a little bit, just to make it look like I meant to put some text under the photo. So here I'm just showing you the layout a little bit closer so you could see the embellishment clusters and the journaling and the hand stitching. And here's where I'm going to come in and add that stamping. And once I have the stamping on there, this layout is done. So I'm going to bring up some still shots in just a moment. Please remember to head to the Cut Shoppe Etsy store to check out all of the cut files and digital collections. Ashley comes out with new designs every 2 weeks, so there's always something new to check out. And here in this next still shot, you can really see that houndstooth pattern peeking out from behind that hand stitching, and I just love how that looks. I love all that dimension that the hand stitching adds. So I will be back again soon with a new layout and process video. Thank you so much for watching.